The M of 28-year-old Warren Crossan was categorised as heinous and said to have showcased the wall of silence that had plagued Belfast when it came to gangland hits and crimes concerning Class A. Witnesses can be in full view of a crime being committed but clam up and shut their eyes and refuse to give any kind of witness statements or even entertain the idea of talking to the police. After all, they do not want to be labelled a grass or even get involved with gangland feuds. Now, police say that Warren Crossan had been chased along Rodney Parade from its junction with St James Road by two masked trig men for no other reason than being the son of well-known dissident Republican Tommy Crossan, who himself had been killed under a volley of gun fire in 2014. Warren Crossan had exited his car when he noticed two masked men approaching. Warren had good instinct and he knew that these two men were after him, so initially Warren Crossan, according to witnesses, had pled and begged for his life. However, the men pulled out their guns, and that was when Warren had turned on his heels and then spun around and began to sprint with all his might. Again, Warren Crossan had ran with all his might, but he had stumbled and during the chase and was unable to make up enough ground. While still running, the two masked men were able to reach out their arm, extend it, aim, point, and then press the trig. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 loud bang were heard, according to witnesses. The first or second ones did not strike Warren, and he was still heard, according to witnesses, begging and pleading for them to stop. Now, Warren had been struck with ammo multiple times at close range. The men responsible, according to Detective Inspector Warren Mccartney, described as callous and reckless, with no concern for the public. One could have struck a car or a house or easily tore through the body of another man, woman, or child. Now, when police looked at Warren's last known movements, they says that Warren had left his home in the Crumlin area just before 11 a.m. He had driven a dark blue Skoda Octavia. He was next recorded parking his car at the family home in Rodney Parade at roughly 12:40 p.m. Now, police say that Warren had been visiting his mum. Now, as the M was committed in broad daylight, police says that the area was busy with pedestrians and motorists. However, when police contacted the potential witnesses, they were met with silence, in which police have said that M could be political or gang-related. One of the conclusions that have been given is Warren Crossan had been killed due to his involvement with the M of Robbie Lawler, because Warren actually had been arrested and questioned in connection with this. However, you also have to remember that Warren Crossan was also a Republican dissident as well, and also a drug kingpin. Now, after all, Warren Crossan had followed his dad's footsteps, and he himself became a well-known dissident Republican. He also had connections and was actively being investigated for being part of a drug gang that had sourced multiple kilos of high-purity white, which was being transported across the border. Now, police went as far as to say that Warren Crossan was actually a Class A kingpin too. Now, Warren was combative, smart, astute, but also a crowd pleaser. He was also dangerous if the rumours were true, because, as I said, Warren Crossan had been arrested and questioned over his alleged involvement with the M of 35-year-old Dublin gangster Robbie Lawler. Now, the Dublin gangster had been fatally outside a house in Etna Drive in Adrian. Robbie was well known to the Garda for his involvement in a string of serious and organised crime. There was no controlling him, so he was a madman, especially when he finished his prison sentence in 2019. And the madman had no fear, and his record over 100 previous convictions and the warning that his life was in danger was evident as part of the drug-healer feud. Before Robbie had been killed, police warned Robbie, do not travel to Belfast because rivals have put a hit on you. But as a man whom had allegedly been involved in 3 other gangland M's, Robbie shrugged it off. After all, he did not care that a bounty had been placed on his head. Now, police believe Robbie Lawler had travelled to Belfast, possibly to collect debts in the range of tens of thousands of pounds. And on April 4th of 2020, Robbie Lawler had been approached by two masked men at around 11:50 a.m., once again broad daylight, while outside Adrian Holland's house in Etna Drive. According to neighbours, they described hearing a popping noise, 4 at least, and then they went outside to see what was happening. Robbie Lawler had stumbled out of the garden before he collapsed on the ground, red dripping off his t-shirt. A neighbour attempted to give CPR, but it was evident that Robbie's heart had stopped beating, and another neighbour fetched a sheet from their home and put it over Robbie in order to give the gangster some dignity. Now, after Robbie had been caged, it was said that the people responsible had fled the scene in a light-coloured car with the registration plate reading Y for Yellow, L for Lima, Z for Zebra, 7052. The car was found torched nearby Kingston Court, and 48-year-old Patrick Tier and 40-year-old Adrian Holland had both denied the M and also been in possession of a 9mm pistol after they were charged with being the trig men. So, when the news reached Dublin and further afield that Robbie Lawler had been caged, there had been an overwhelming joyous celebration, especially on social media. The people that would not dare speak about Robbie to his face decided that Robbie's time had come to an end, and good riddance. Now, with regards to Warren Crossan, though questioned over the M, police did not have enough evidence to bring a case against him. But again, he was still actively being investigated for his part in trying to transport multiple kilos of Class A white across the border. In over the years since Warren Crossan's M, no one has been arrested, and police are constantly still trying to ask people for help. Police also released CCTV footage in order to try and encourage the public to do the right thing. The police officer says that the first piece of CCTV footage is of the two suspects they want to speak to crossing the junction on the Falls Road that joins the White Rock Road and St James Road at 8:37 a.m. on the day of the M. I believe that the man on a purple-coloured mountain bike arrived in the direction of Turf Lodge and turned onto the White Rock Road just before 8 o'clock. I believe they both then leave together from the White Rock estate approximately 40 minutes later. Now, the people responsible actually lay in wait for Warren Crossan for multiple hours. The two men then travelled along St James Road, where a minute or so later they turned left into St James Crescent. The trig men then lie in wait for several hours until Warren arrived at his mum's house in Rodney Parade at approximately 12:20 p.m. Approximately 30 minutes later, the trig men can be seen appearing on foot from an alley between St James Road and Rodney Drive. They then chased Warren into St Catherine's Road, where he was struck multiple times with AM and left to die in the street. The trig men then made their escape back along St Catherine's Road and into the same alleyway. Again, no one has been convicted of this M, which means, rightly or wrongly, Warren Crossan's family cannot get any closure. Imagine a father and son have both been M'd due to their affiliations of being a Republican dissident. The only question you can ask is it worth it? Let me know your thoughts in the comments, and condolences. Stay safe, safe.